Hunter Biden's pardoned by his father, Joe Biden. We're going to be talking about Kash Patel, the GOP, Justin Trudeau, Israeli hostages, and more. Let's get Perry on the line right now.
Hello.
Hey, Perry, welcome once again to another episode of Tuesday with Perry. Couldn't do it without you. What's up, my friend?
99, brother, 99.
A special surprise next week for episode 100. But let's talk about what's going on in the news today. Obviously, on everyone's lips, Hunter Biden has been pardoned by his father, Joe Biden, who said no one's above the law and that he would never. Oh, holy shit. Hold on 1 second here. Oh, Jesus, I get a little feedback. All right. Yeah, holy shit. I mean, it's really happening in front of everyone's eyes, including the Democrats who can't believe it. They are the corrupt Biden crime family. Because everybody, even the Federalists, are saying that it's not just to free Biden, Hunter Biden, from any jail time, but to keep him from testifying and, most importantly, to erase any future crimes that he could be subject to indictment for
future, right.
for 10 years.
Any potential future indictment for crimes, and here's as close to the quote as I can get, based on the pardon, any crimes that may have been committed from, I want to say it was January of 2014 until December of 2024.
Yeah, it's a decade.
Now, your viewers are too smart to know why he did that. But for the few, and I'm sure there are a few lame brains, everybody has them in their audience. For the few lame brains that are scratching their heads saying, what the hell is this guy Perry talking about? Very simple. Junior went to Pops and told him, and this is why, you and I have to have some kind of flagging system, Rudy, because you and I had this very conversation about a pardon back in July when Uncle Joe decided to step out of the race, okay? And both of us said, he's going to pardon his son. And the two reasons why both of us thought that was, number one, and most importantly, was to protect Uncle Joe's hide, not Sonny Boy's. Sonny Boy was the bag man for the Biden crime family. He is the one who traveled around on AF2 and did the dirty work for Pops while Pops was vice president for 8 years under Obama. He had to do all of that. We already know about the conversations that Sonny Boy had with Bob Alinsky and with the Chinese businessmen / spies, and with the board of directors at Burisma, and the list goes on and on and on. Let's not forget the former mayor of Moscow's wife. Okay, right. So all of this was done to enrich the family, but mainly to enrich the big guy. And so Sonny Boy went to Pops when he was already being prosecuted for the gun charges and for tax evasion, and said, no, I don't just want you to pardon me for these things. You better pardon me for everything, whether it's mentioned or not, because if some federal attorney comes after me for things that I have done in the past, going back to the Obama years, I'm gonna sing like a canary. And so Uncle Joe had to give him, quote unquote, unconditional pardon. And an unconditional pardon basically means, hey, if he committed a murder in cold blood in 2015, he cannot be prosecuted for it. And that was done to protect Sonny Boy,
right,
as well as Papa Bear.
right.
Okay,
and he doesn't have to testify to anything either.
no.
Yeah.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though, Rudy, and I can't say this is an original thought. This subject came up on another podcast that I listened to, and there was a former United States attorney that was on that podcast as a guest, and he corrected the host and said, no. If he is called in to testify in Congress or in the Senate about things that may or may not have gone on during the Biden administration, or for that matter, even the Obama administration.
Right.
If he perjures himself, he will be, because that's a new crime. Perjury in 2025 or 2026 or 2027 is a new crime. It's not a crime that took place between January of 2014 and December of 2024. So the point that this attorney made was get him to come testify on things that have little or nothing to do with him. He can't be prosecuted for what he reveals that he did during that sad chapter in American history. But if we can catch him perjuring himself, that's a whole new story.
Right.
And at that point, in order for him to get out of perjury charges, he'll roll. Now, would he roll on his father? I don't know. But he'll roll on somebody.
Yeah, I don't think he'd ever appear. You saw how he dragged his feet already. So I doubt he'd have to appear. And according to
we'll do to him what they did to Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
And we'll tell him, you ain't coming out until you do appear.
Right. Right.
It's that simple.
Right.
You can make it one day. You can make it one decade. We don't care.
Right.
Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro were absolutely, positively, not only mistreated, but to have their civil rights taken from them for something that no one in the history of our country has ever gone to jail for, which is not showing up, not appearing before a congressional hearing, and being thrown into jail for 4 months by a corrupt judge. If they can do it, we can do it better. Yeah. So ultimately, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the pardon states that he can't even be questioned on things, anything related to things that happened over the past decade. But after a brief comment on that, I want to hear your opinion on Kash Patel. I know you're a big fan, and we were ruminating about this for months or even years, really.
That's right.
If there was going to be another Trump administration, that Kash Patel would be and should be the new director of the FBI for a myriad of different reasons, more than we should go into here. How do you feel about Kash Patel?
It's like Christmas came early. Honestly, I mean, every time I watch this man, I ask myself, how could someone with that amount of intellect, let's not say patriotism, because there's a junior high school in my hometown named after Nathan Hale. So there is plenty of patriots to go around, but someone with that level of legal intellect, how did someone like that ever come out of my hometown? I'll never know.
Yeah, right. If people didn't know, he's from our neck of the woods, and I actually, when I was still with the newspaper, we interviewed his dad after he was admitted or part of the first Trump administration. We don't hear anything from the left now about brown skin now, do we?
No, as a matter of fact, they've already moved on. They're not even talking about diversity anymore. I can't imagine why.
Yeah, really, because now we have Tulsi Gabbard, we have Kash Patel.
That doesn't count. Yeah. She's a white girl.
Yeah. A slew of others. But I love the fact that they keep re-airing that little bit that he had on that podcast where he said he was going to close down the
close down the J. Edgar Hoover building, right, and they're open it the next day as
a museum for the deep state, right? Exactly.
And what was the next thing he said? The next thing he said was, I would take everyone who's sitting behind a desk for thousands and say to them, go out, disperse amongst the 50 states and go catch criminals. You're
right.
Cops. Go do your job.
Right, because they have the offices, the headquarters in each individual state for the FBI, so they should go out there and do that. And I think whether that's a figurative statement or it's a literal statement, I think either way, that's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, the J. Hoover building is always going to be manned. He was just being cute when he said it, but it had ground shaking results, and that's what he was looking for. He was putting every apparatchik in that department on notice that you are not going to waste time doing investigations on parents who want America first and a real American history taught to their children. You're not going to do that anymore. You're not going to ignore the millions of crimes that are committed both by citizens and against citizens when it comes to heinous crime. You are going to focus on those things from now on. You're going to focus as your job entails. You are members of the once great Federal Department of Investigation, and you're going to investigate real crimes. You're not going to be thought police anymore. Yeah. That's done.
Yeah.
And that's the point he was making when he said I'd close it down and the next day I'd open it up as a museum. Yeah. Because those people don't need to be sitting in every one of those floors. I think there's 7 or 8 floors to that building.
Yeah.
You know, it's huge.
And I think by him calling out J. Edgar Hoover by name, I think he's saying we're gonna put an end to the blackmail and the nudging, right, the manipulation, and really extortion. I could go into another all litany of crimes that the FBI commits. But I think
every day.
Yeah, but I think by calling out J. Edgar Hoover, he said he's going to put an end to the founder of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, for
That's
all
right.
intents and purpose, that way of doing things, and I hope that would be the case.
That's right. We won't have any more leaders of the FBI running around as transvestites anymore.
and cobbling together crimes or making crimes or
making crimes up.
Right, nudging people to commit crimes, going all the way back to the first World Trade Center bombing and all the way up to now to the Whitmer kidnapping. All these things were constructed by undermining and manipulating ill-witted and real morons who are out there that could be manipulated and
in all honesty, we need to go back further than that. We could go all the way back to the founding of the FBI. We don't have to do that. But certainly going all the way back to the assassination of JFK and RFK
yep.
and Martin Luther King.
Yep.
yeah, the CIA had a lot to do with it, but the FBI is the ones that covered it up.
Yeah. Not
And,
only,
and they covered up crimes committed by LBJ.
Yeah.
Okay? He blackmailed, and I didn't know this until recently, and of course I haven't actually read the article. This is coming from someone who did research on the FBI. LBJ had investigations performed on Hubert Humphrey, his VP, to get dirt on Humphrey to make sure he wouldn't be a threat to the old man sitting behind the Resolute desk.
Sounds familiar.
So, right. And this is the point that Cash is making. Those days are going to be behind you starting on January 20th. And you and I have said this before, and we'll probably say it one more time before we get off the phone tonight, Rudy. We don't have 2 years. At best, we have 18 months.
18 months, yeah.
Because after January of 2027, everybody goes into re-election mode.
Yeah.
And yes, the work of government goes on, and the machinations of legislation, and the sausage being made, it is going to continue. But as far as Trump's agenda is concerned, we only have at best 18 months.
Yeah, because people will be less motivated. Yep.
Right. Now, let's just say the Democrats can't steal 2 Senate seats, maybe 3. 2 Senate seats like they did this year. And they can't steal a minimum of 10 congressional seats like they did this year. We're still waiting for 1 congressional seat. Duarte on election night was up by hundreds, if not more than 1,000 votes. Yeah. We're talking about a congressional district here. There are not more than, I think a congressional district has to be a minimum of 750,000 people, and I don't think it can exceed 850 or 900,000, which is why cities like Orlando, that I am on the outskirts of, I'm an hour away, has 5 or 6 congressional districts. Okay, so what we're talking about here in this congressional district is less than 800,000 votes. Now, granted, the guy he's going up against is the guy he beat 2 years ago. It was a blue seat. He got that seat. Now the guy's coming back, and the reason why it doesn't add up to me, this guy Gray, yeah, he's a liberal, but that's not the point. The point is he's a Democrat running for the seat that he lost 2 years ago to an upstart Republican in a presidential election year where Donaldus Magnus didn't win the state of California, but made huge inroads as far as the total number of votes that he got. I mean, generally speaking, since 1992, a Republican couldn't get elected on a statewide referendum for anything. Generally speaking, over the last 5 presidential elections, Republicans have not garnered more than 30%, and a couple of times it was under 30%, of the entire voting population of the state of California. Trump got 40%. That's virtually a landslide when you're talking about a midnight blue state like California.
A super majority.
Okay?
Yep.
Right. They have Republicans and that's why I think all the important elected officials in the California Republican Party are beautiful women. I think that's the reason why, because there are no men left to run in California when it comes to party leadership. These women women like Dylan. Her first name just went out of my head. There are other women. But my point being is, they worked hard to get Republicans elected. I knew Steve Garvey didn't stand a chance against the Democratic machine, but I still sent them money because the more they had to defend Sheriff Woody, the more they had to spend on his campaign, the less money there was to give to congressional challengers. Yeah. Getting back to Duarte. So when you have Donald Trump winning 40% of the vote in the state of California, and you have he's now established, an established Republican holding a seat in the U.S. Congress in what is considered a semi-rural district, how the hell did he not win?
Yeah.
How the hell did he not win? So, and that's just one example. I mean, again, we don't want to spend too much time going down each individual seat. The point I'm making here is, as you have said repeatedly, months before, weeks before, days before, and days after the election, you said, and absolutely correct, on point, every slow walk contest, historically, since Slick Willie became president, has ultimately gone to the Democrats.
Yep.
Now, in the world of politics, how is that even possible?
It's not.
And then when you add to it the coattails that Donald Trump had, and the reason why he had the coattails is not just because he's Donald Trump. It's because he said what he needed to say during the campaign. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? The answer is no. And even people who don't like him, I'm still hearing about the people who hate the mean tweets. But this time, the difference is the people who are saying, I hate the mean tweets, are being told, shut the fuck up. Hasn't the last 4 years taught you anything? It's not what the man says, it's what the man does.
Right.
And when he says to people like the boy toy from the North, hey, you don't like my way of doing business? We'll just buy Canada. We'll make you the 51st and 52nd state.
That's a great time to to move over to that lunch or dinner it was with Thanksgiving dinner with Justin Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump and a few other Republicans. He really handed Justin Trudeau his
Rudy,
lunch.
You're breaking up. I heard you saying that, the dinner at Mar-a-Lago, but that's about all I can make out.
Well, there was a dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Justin Trudeau. Do you hear me now?
There you are. Yeah, you're crystal clear now.
Yeah, so there was that dinner, and he did say that Donald Trump was jokingly said we could make Canada the 51st state of the United States, or maybe two states, one Republican and one Democrat, because
that would kill two birds with one stone, because you got liberals in New York that want to become part of Canada.
Right, there are enough going there now. So, but he said if you're that dependent on the United States, well, you might as well be part of our country, because he threatened Justin Trudeau with tariffs as he's using it as a cudgel for foreign diplomacy, which a threat is a threat. It isn't actually doing it. People are in the media are saying, oh, broad sweeping tariffs. Really? We haven't seen any tariffs yet. He hasn't even taken office, but he is getting things done.
Well, my argument to people who are upset about him threatening broad and deep, costly tariffs is, let me ask you a question. Do you like innocent 12-year-old American girls being mercilessly raped, murdered, and drawn and quartered? Oh, you don't. Oh, by the way, by illegal aliens that invaded our country Oh, you don't. And how do you feel about fentanyl not only coming across that southern border, but now coming across the northern border by mules from other countries that are using the northern border as a way to enter our country illegally? Oh, you don't. So then why are you upset about our president-elect, soon to be president again, threatening those very trading partners with a 25% tariff? Personally, I'd say 100% tariff. And I'll tell you why. Because an average of 50 plus thousand Americans a year, I think last year they said it was over 75,000. 50,000 Americans a year die from fentanyl overdoses. By the way, those overdoses are usually committed not through the act of physically wanting to take fentanyl. The fentanyl was in whatever drug they were taking. So what's more important to you? Worrying about upsetting trading partners who happen to be our neighbors, who don't give a flying flip about your 12-year-old daughter, or upsetting them with the threat of a 25% tariff on all their goods that come into our country if they don't do something about it?
Right.
That's my question to you, meaning the one that doesn't like him acting as a bully. He's not acting as a bully. He's acting as a tough negotiator.
Well, yeah.
Everything is negotiable. Right. Everything. War and peace is negotiable.
Exactly. And
that's a great segue right there.
Right. And not that we're going to get into Tolstoy, but the fact of the matter is the United States is the biggest commercial market on the globe. So not using that as a bargaining chip just seems to be a little ridiculous, because no one, China, which is finding that out now, or anybody else that goes against the U.S. in policy, and if they're going to be subject to tariffs, they're going to lose.
That's right.
Only the United States could survive as an isolationist country. The commercial
if we had to.
Right. The commercial markets across the globe wouldn't survive, particularly China, without the United States. So we talked a little bit about Trudeau and that little deal. As long as we're talking about foreign policy, let's move over to Israel. So recently, firebrand language from Donald Trump saying that if Hamas doesn't release all the hostages by the time he gets into the office, there's going to be repercussions.
Hallelujah.
Is this a Ronaldus Magnus moment?
It is most certainly a Ronaldus Magnus moment. The only difference between Ronaldus and Donaldus is that Ronaldus didn't have all the social media outlets and the instantaneous way to get his message out the way Donaldus does. So he had to do it through other means, mainly people who ultimately became members of his first administration, going to middlemen, who then went, I believe it was members of the European Union, who did have direct ties to the Iranian regime, and said to them, look, this guy, Reagan, is not anything like the current guy, Carter. This guy, Reagan, is a cowboy. And if you know anything about cowboys, they only know black and white when it comes to justice. He's serious. You better let the hostages go before he gets sworn in. And for those of your audience that were not alive or were not old enough to know what happened on January 20th, 1981, literally 5 minutes before Ronaldus Magnus put his hand on the Bible, the Ayatollahs released our American hostages. And it was at the podium, after being sworn in, that Ronaldus Magnus announced to the country and to the world, our hostages are coming home. That my friend, is how diplomacy works.
Right.
Because not a shot was fired.
Yeah.
Not a shot was fired in the Cold War to bring the Cold War to an end, and that abomination of a wall in Berlin to be taken down.
Yeah, but
So,
that was the start, was that very thing, that the hostages being released by Iran, and that started the melting of the adversarial relationship of nation states to the United States. And if people don't remember, Jimmy Carter tried a rescue plan, and his helicopters and his special forces teams crashed in the Libyan desert before even making it over to that part of the Middle East.
actually, it wasn't the Libyan desert. They crashed in the deserts of Iran.
Oh.
And the only humane thing that the Iranians did, and the only thing I will ever give the Ayatollahs credit for, is that they returned our service dead to us in a very respectful manner.
Yeah.
That much I have to say they did. And I don't know why they did it, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
And so why did that mission fail? Well, it failed because he knew he was losing the election, and he had to have a hero moment. And he told the Joint Chiefs after they said, look, we don't have the equipment that can sustain all of the sand that the rotors of our choppers are going to kick up. It's too dangerous. And he said, I don't care. You have to get our people home. And that's why those men were sent on a one-way mission.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens also.
The filters didn't work.
When you cut defense spending, you don't have the readiness that you need for certain foreign diplomacy missions like that. Let's move over. We all saw this recently. Chuck Todd, is he coming over to our side? So the news director for NBC and the former host of not Face the Nation, Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, recently sounded like he's coming over to the Trump side. What's up with that?
No, he's just having a mea culpa moment with one of his co-conspirators, Chris Cillizza. And, you know, the great thing about this is while they were having their little confab and admitting their wronging of our country in the way they conducted themselves as so-called journalists, they didn't think it'd get picked up by the conservative press, but it has. And, you know, Shakespeare said it best. Revenge is a dish best served cold. And boy, they are drinking a lot of Vichy Soir right now.
I never thought it. I can't stand Chuck Todd. He's the most partisan, biased, supposed journalist I've ever seen. And I used to watch Meet the Press all the time with Tim Russert.
Right.
And I liked it. I liked Tim Russert, but he met his fate after calling out the members of the Skull and Bones. But I'm not going to get into that too much. But since Chuck Todd, since he took the reins, he has just been he has just been the worst, man. He has almost been a Rachel Maddow acolyte. But I think he's seen the error of his ways. He dropped out from the host of Meet the Press, and now he's singing a different tune. Will he come around full circle? It looks like mainstream media has a make or break moment. They're either going to play nice with Trump, or they might have just write their epitaph.
Well, you know, he does work for Comcast, and Comcast is getting ready to cut PMSNBC loose. And a lot of people have forgotten that not only Elon Musk, but other people, including Trump, have said, yeah, you need to buy it. And so I believe this is something he's doing, this mea culpa moment that he's had with Chris Feliza, is because they want to keep their jobs. And I don't know if Elon buys PMSNBC, as he has done with X. He's put a liberal in charge of running X, and for the most part, she seems to be living up to Elon's expectations. I don't like everything that she's done. And when I say she puts people in charge of wherever they have to pull the plug, like what they did to Bolsonaro's supporters down in Brazil. Elon, yes, he ultimately made the decision because he owns X. But I guarantee you, she had a lot to say with convincing Elon this is the thing we need to do. So, there are, like I said, there are things about her and her leadership of X that I don't like, but for the most part, I think if Elon were to buy PMSNBC, what the courts in New York just did to Elon. I think it was today.
Oh yeah, no, it's Delaware. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Delaware, right?
54
yeah,
billion.
Uncle Joe state.
Yeah, 54 billion. There's nothing going on there.
Can you even? I can't even imagine that one person getting. It's like Brewster's Millions, the movie coming to real life. But you know what? The board of directors said, "Give him the money."
Right. And besides, it's a freaking private company. So the people that own the company want to pay the CEO what they promised them.
No. Tesla is on the exchange.
Right.
They're not private. X is private, but not Tesla. And that's the reason why this federal judge could do what she did.
Well, right. I don't mean a public in that sense. I mean, it's not owned by the government. It's owned by people the people that sit on the board who own the majority of shares, who basically control the company, decided we're going to do this. And some federal judge comes in and goes, you can't pay Elon money. That money and stock he was promised, you can't give him that. I just don't
that money that belongs to him, he can't have it.
Yeah. Where were these laws? This sounds like an Elizabeth Warren law here that you can't pay a CEO what you promised him. So I don't know.
Go figure.
Yeah.
So getting back to the point, if he were, he's not going to run PMSNBC.
Right.
This woman will ultimately end up running it. But the point being is, she has followed his demands, which is X is going to be the home of freedom of speech, and you're not going to take that away from people. And so that would be the policy at PMSNBC. They probably change it to X whatever, and
X network. Yeah.
The XNet. You heard of XNet? XNet. So anyway, and it will be phenomenal competition, which Fox desperately needs. Yes, there is Newsmax, which every now and then I watch, but most of their hosts are just pitiful. There is One American News, I think, but I can't get them. Unless I'm on my phone through app, I'm not going to do that.
You can't, even on Fox. If you watch Brett Baer and Neil Cavuto, all they do is dance around the truth. All you have is like Jesse Waters and maybe Greg Gutfeld out there saying, this is how it is, whether it's partisan or not. If you're going to play partisan, you might as well say, this is the way I see it, rather than dancing around the fact that the Democrats are corrupt. The world is in a shit shape because the establishment put it there, and so we need to do some serious retooling.
And so, right, and so this would be very, very healthy, and that's why I think those two were going about this soul searching moment on Chris's podcast, and then of course there's Chris Cuomo, who ever since he left CNN and he found his way to One American News, I haven't had an opportunity to watch him with any sense of regularity because, again, I don't subscribe. But I have seen some of his shows on YouTube, and it's like, Chris, why weren't you like this when you were on CNN? And the reason is, of course, Zucker.
No.
Okay? Jeff Zucker wanted news portrayed in one light and one light only, his way. And I think there's nothing wrong with having a competitor, a direct competitor with equal access to every American household on day one to Fox. Fox needs it. Okay? And if you can get talent like that on the left, there are plenty of people, not that Bongino wants it, but someone like Bongino, there's plenty of people. Rudy might be a great talent on the new PMS NBC. Okay? So, there's a lot of talent out there waiting for an opportunity. Just get rid of the numbskulls that you have there, like Mad Cow. Okay? Yeah. And bring in, all right, I've never liked Chris Cillizza, but as long as he comes at reporting the news and discussing the daily, weekly, and monthly events from a liberal standpoint, but at least coming at it honestly. There's two stories, two sides to every coin. You and I say this all the time, okay? I don't have to agree with what Chris Cillizza or Todd or, I don't want to use this name, but I'll do it anyway, Scarborough say. But if they're going to be honest about, they're not journalists, they're opinion makers, and they conduct themselves in that light, being fair, not calling me a deplorable because I don't agree with their politics, not calling my president Hitler because he's not. As long as you're not going to be that kind of outrageous, even if I don't agree with you, I'm going to listen to what you have to say. I don't have to agree with it. And I think if Elon were to buy PMS NBC, I honestly think that's what he's going to do. He's going to put left, right, and people in the middle. There's room for everybody. And that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see.
We hope. Any last words before we cut out here for tonight?
Well, the last thing, and we already talked about it, but I want to bring it up again, and that is Donaldus Magnus letting Hamas know. You've got until 12:05 on January 20th to give our people back to us. And if not, I am going to kill every last one of you with a blade covered in pig's blood. and if anybody in your audience knows why I said that, it's a historical statement made by, I want to say it was General Mountbatten of the British forces during the end of World War I, going back to the beginning of the British Mandate in what was then called Palestine, now Israel, and the warring factions of the what are now called Islamists, not Muslims, Islamists, were killing not just soldiers, they were killing men, women, and children because they refused to acquiesce. So Mountbatten said, okay, we're going to take all our swords, we're going to dip them in pig's blood, and we're going to kill 9 of these 10 POWs, beheading them with a scimitar covered in pig's blood. And the one that survives is going to go back and tell all his brethren,
Right.
This is what the British are doing. And within 2 weeks, it was over.
Yeah.
So that's the message Donaldus Magnus just sent.
Yeah.
And God bless him for doing it. I want my fellow Americans home.
Yeah.
And by bringing them home, the Israelis, I know they're no longer living, the Israelis will get their dead to properly bury.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it'll be the end of this 1.5 year needless war.
Right. This
And won't
conflict.
that be wonderful?
That is the point of all of it. Well, thanks for joining me tonight, Perry. And next week is supposed to be episode 100. Can't believe we've been doing this for 100 episodes, but can't wait to start that episode up. So thanks for joining me tonight, Perry, and take care, my brother.
Right back at you, and I look forward to us having our own little piece of history next week.
All right. Outstanding. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Take care, Rudy.
Peace.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
There goes Perry. Episode 99 of Tuesdays with Perry. Thanks for joining us tonight. We got a lot in there. We talked about Hunter Biden's pardon, Kash Patel taking over the FBI, the feckless GOP establishment still holed up in the Senate, including Mitch McConnell, Justin Trudeau coming to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring of Donald Trump, and the ultimatum Donald Trump gave Hamas about the hostages in Gaza. Is this a Ronald Reagan moment for Donald Trump? We'll see. Hopefully it's going to work out the way it should. Thanks for joining us tonight. Episode 99, Tuesdays with Perry. We'll see you next week, or join me tomorrow. Every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. live on Rumble, Rudy's Revelation podcast. Peace out.
For all the pain, love, and hates I've ever felt in the past, has it shaped me